Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome to a new year and a new month. January 7th, straight up, a special day. We're grateful for you taking a time to go through a Digital World Town Hall meeting. We're joined by a live audience and guests that will be going through things around the digital world, around basic things around what we'll talk about here is legislation, adoption, a little bit of voting, but we'll give you an update as the year gets kicked off, set some vision, some goals, talk a little bit about some of the things that we focused on throughout the year. Some of you will get it and it'll be simple and tight. Some of it may be overwhelming, but we're grateful for all that are here. Again, this is a Digital World Town Hall meeting. Today is January 7th, 2025, and welcome to a new year. Some of the stuff that we'll be going through is just general updates, and then we'll go through Q&A, but feel free to interrupt at any time if there's questions, comments. We're grateful for those that are always here and have been here for coming up on 30 years now, and just always there to make sure that the trains run on time, so to speak, and the simple things occur in business so that vision and execution can be realized. And I just want to shout out special thanks to Wally as well as Elle for all that they do and for their love. Thanks, Terrence, as well for all that he's done. This is a reminder, this is a private membership association. Some of the things we'll talk about are private, for a private membership association. And some of the things we talk about may be forward-looking. The things that we'll be discussing are primarily things that have gone on historically in time around secret combinations. And they're in different industries, whether it's oil or pharma or media or tech. We're primarily focused on the tech side of it, but you'll notice over the years they come together and take over government. So there's a private side, which we just discussed, and a public side. And we're really talking about solutions around how decentralized systems can actually help to be a solution for humanity, to provide transparency really on everything that happens within our lives, but it's complicated. You have to build a literal parallel system in conjunction with the centralized systems to be able to replace that. And I'm talking about systems around everything that we do, everything that is collecting data, whether we're talking insurance or financial transactions or shopping, you name it. There's all parts and pieces of things that collect data. Maybe it's a phone, maybe it's a car, maybe it's a bicycle. Simple things, but in the digital world, we have to be respectful around how these systems are built and with decentralization at its core, especially when we talk about health and identity. It all starts with identity. So it starts, really, the digital world is all about how can we actually bring the physical environments with governments and centralized systems and freedom systems that are decentralized. How do we find that happy balance for humanity in the future? And for those that are not aware, we've been on this journey for over 15 years now, after spending about 15 years in addition to that, so over 30 years, helping technology get deployed first centralized, and then decentralized. And from our experience, from a central experience, we saw that there's massive flaws and massive systems when you layer digital technology onto it, where humanity will be negatively affected. So we literally, about 15 years ago, 2009, we switched gears and we've been focused on really building what we call Clear ID or digital ID that enables the digital world. We'll talk a lot about that, but it's around getting keys, and then those keys tie to you as an individual. So it's not just some cryptographic key and some code, it's how do we actually as humans use it? Some people have referred to us as the digital world as like the Bitcoin that can actually be used in the real world. It's fast, there's no centralized systems, artificial intelligence can't follow it. For instance, if there's, with a cryptographic key like this, you basically get a public key and a private key. This represents, these 12 words represents the private key, but you share the public key. And in the machine learning, artificial intelligence world, they can literally copy this and layer it on your identity. For instance, there's 4 countries that have adopted Bitcoin as their standard currency. And then what they do is they figure out Bitcoin takes 10 minutes for the next block to write. So for a transaction to be consummated, it takes a long time. And in the digital world, it takes just seconds. We'll give you a demo of that tonight. But ultimately, what we're really discussing is the ability for an individual to actually not just say my name, my phone number, my address is tied to a public key, and then machine learning effectively will centralize decentralization, because that's what's going to happen to Bitcoin that's using the Lightning networks and any of those other ecosystems that are basically, most, in my opinion, when the people talk about the crypto world, 95% of them are either fraudulent or they're building centralized systems on decentralization, which is not true and correct principles or what it was intended for in the first place. So in the digital world, it's basically using derived keys to layer on top of everything that you do. Maybe it's around health, maybe it's around apps, maybe it's around passwords, maybe it's around, you know, a reputation score, etc. But it's really important to understand the differentiation around derived keys. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as we kick off 2025. This is actually a new email signature. What you see here is a partial name. You don't see a full name. In some cases, you may see a first name. In some cases, you may see a private name or a truncator like this, where it's Mr. XYZ. But imagine an environment that actually has when you look at this, so a simple email footer, when you look at the details around it, what do you see? You see a jurisdiction within a digital world. Now, what is the digital world? How does it work? Why does it work? Why do we need it? Well, the reality is we live in a world that is either physical or digital. Some of us understand there's a spiritual element to it as well, but you've got physical, which we're operating on, you've got spiritual, and in between it, there's this ecosystem that we can't really see, but we can all share and operate. For instance, this beautiful congregation of folks here, like we're all connected and sharing digitally all around the world, from Australia to New Zealand to Canada to Israel, all around the world. We got people that are on and caring about different things. Some of them may be caring about how do we get the next meal? How do we make sure that a bomb doesn't blow this up? How do we make sure that a financial system maybe gets integrated? But in the end, decentralization on technology can provide an environment that actually can go on for generations of time without a central system of governance. And that's the value and litmus test of what Bitcoin was to the world. It proved that cryptography could actually provide value to humanity and be secure. The issue is, how does it get adopted and how does it actually get real time? And Bitcoin will be a wonderful savings asset, but it won't get real time. It just won't. As much as we want it to, it's not there. It never will be, based upon my perspective. So when we look at this, really what we dig into is this digital world and how does it operate and how can we all come together as individuals from all different parts of the world and actually have a voice. And today, what I would submit for your review and your awareness is the ability to just look at some basic documents. So we already have a Declaration of Unity, which I believe is it is the founding document. Actually, if just an office of 20 feet away, I could show you a big banner where hundreds, not thousands, but hundreds of people have actually signed this document. But that document was the first document, Declaration of Unity, that literally, here, I'll pull it up real fast. I'm going to go back to the digital world. Governance, I'm going to click on Declaration. Now, those other documents that I was showing you, once they get reviewed and ratified, they will start popping in this section. So this is the Declaration of Unity. It's a brilliant, beautiful document. I won't even read all of it, but I'll get started on a simple part of it. But really, it talks about the individual. It doesn't talk about politics. It doesn't talk about religions. It talks about people. We're all one people on one beautiful earth. And the sooner that we see each other as a big family that can work together, especially around communications, around identity, all of these different systems. And you may feel like this is a long document, but I've read it many, many, many times, and it is a very, very beautiful document to build from. I believe that this Declaration of Unity is just as important as the Declaration of Independence for the United States of America. What followed that Declaration of Independence for the United States of America? It was a Constitution. So today we're actually going to announce elements of a Constitution, and everyone on this call, as well as in the world, has the right to modify, update in any form, and add their value and fingerprint to it. And then within 90 days, we'll actually be locking these documents down. So we're going to go through some of those today. But at first, I'm going to start with just reading the first part of this Declaration of Unity quickly. At least I won't do it, but the computer will do it. Here we go.
Life, love, family, community, choice. These are the heritage of all life on earth, given with assumed responsibility, that each should walk this earth in a way that never prevents another from fulfilling their own responsibilities and enjoying their own privileges. Transferring government power from one centralized body to another is the hallmark for many of the greatest revolutions in world history. The United States Constitution attempted to arrest this time-old cycle by empowering the states as a decentralized balance to the power of the federal government. By extension, the states should empower the counties as a decentralized balance of power for the states. In this way, the power to rule would theoretically be decentralized from the federal level down to families and individuals. Legitimate government must derive its power from the will of the people. The United States Constitution clearly envisioned virtual virtue is the stabilizing principle for decentralized power. In the absence of virtue, centralization would inevitably evolve toward a state that dishonors the rights, responsibilities, and will of the people, and all other life. This follows simply from the observation that virtue inspires individuals from within, whereas law enforcement necessarily acts from without. Intrinsic motivation to be virtuous leads to accountability and fulfilling responsibilities and acting in reciprocity with others. Thus, virtue in the decentralization of governmental powers reinforces legitimacy. Loss of governmental legitimacy stimulates fragility to the core that binds a nation. Information technology connects us today in ways that were not contemplated or planned for at the founding of modern nations. Many of the democratic processes created at the founding of nations assumed inherent limitations in discovering the will of the people. These limitations no longer exist today, despite the possibilities that technology provides. Centralization has prompted a perverse instantiation of intended outcomes. Instead of an increased ability to comprehend the mind and will of the people, centralization allows a few powerful groups to manipulate what is heard and seen.
So that document basically, and this, you need to understand, artificial intelligence did not write one word of that document. It was written by a group of people, namely joined by a gentleman named Conrad. I won't be specific around a lot of names because a lot of the folks that are involved in this identity is very key. And as you understand, those that actually drafted the Declaration of Independence originally, many of their lives were taken before their days should have been numbered. So if you really dig into some of the stuff you're going to see and review, you may find that sense of urgency and independence. So there's a constitution for the digital world, a draft, a stewardship, an act that'll basically talk about allodial titles. There's a legislation process. There are a trust framework, a coin allocation, which we'll talk about, a treaty between the Pacific Union and the digital world, an anthem, a Jobs Act, which basically adopts the same things that happened in America with a guy named David Wield, who's like the godfather of the Jobs Act, which is Reg A, Reg CF, and Reg D. We're only doing the Reg A plus and the Reg D within this environment. So some people may think, why would we even be involved in that? Well, because the digital world can not only create companies, and companies can actually go and get funds, whether private or public funds, and the Jobs Act in the United States of America, adopted by the digital world, can actually enable that type of thing to happen. And then privacy as a human right, which is another big thing that actually tie to some of the stuff within the not the European Union, but the Pacific Union that will tie, and I'm going to pull up that real fast. So for those of you that the Pacific Union may be new, this is a union within the digital world, over 40 billion acres, 25,000 islands that tied up. We went and physically met with 28 countries, and out of those 28 countries, we basically have now 9 that are signed up. Mexico is not on this map, but actually within the last month, Mexico has joined, Mexican country. We're working on 2 other countries right now, one that is Canada and one that is Israel. There is maybe some advancements that we'll review around Ethiopia, but that's a little different topic. But there is a team member that's usually on this call that's currently in Ethiopia right now. So hopefully in 2 weeks we have a report out on that. But these are basically in the Pacific that we're working on to help enable their own systems, so their own little worlds that the people can log into. But they're using a common framework of standards that will basically roll out financial systems, identity systems, and the future of really commerce. And we'll go through the details of that. I'm going to shut that down real fast. But so when we go through these different documents, you'll start understanding the importance of the digital world, these different unions within the digital world, and then how responsibility is very key. Responsibility of the individual to be able to be responsible for who they are instead of relying on centralized systems. Historically, we may not have known better, but now we do. It's very, very clear. It's very, very simple. And then there's a Governance and Empowerment Act, and then another document, a treaty between the digital world and the Pacific Union. So we're going to submit all of these different documents. Usually, you guys know me, I would like to read every word, but they're a framework for people to actually get involved with. I will go ahead and drop this in this online environment today. So if you'd like to review it, you're welcome to it. Anybody can comment, anybody can provide feedback, whether it's, you're known or you're not known, but please feel free to review those. Any questions or thoughts before I move off of that topic, as it's a pretty key topic? I'll give you 3 seconds to respond.
Where do you, after you review them, where do they get submitted to?
They're going to be submitted online in draft form. That's an editable form. And you can start with the URL that I just provided. So you should be able to access most of these, if not all of them. And if you'd like to actually
Yeah,
author,
I've got them.
did that work okay? Did that come up for you?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
cool, thank you.
So that's kind of where you start. Anyone can comment, anyone can provide feedback, and anyone can edit. The real question is, together as humanity, using a digital format like this and actually create a system that no one owns, no one controls, but all of humanity can actually benefit from. I believe that's actually what Bitcoin's original intention was. It was something that was a gift, but in all reality, you know, I wasn't ahead of its time. If anything, the gentleman, Scott, that was actually mentioned inside of the Bitcoin white paper, which, by the way, lives only like 5 minutes from where I'm physically located right here. He was doing these same types of cryptographic key stuff with genealogy from BYU 14 years prior to literally Bitcoin actually being announced. But the point that I'm driving at is these documents, along with the Declaration of Unity, create a framework where we can actually start incorporating not just countries, but entities and people, and letting them govern themselves, and then look for a physical connection. For instance, one of the things we're working on within the state of Utah is what's called a free trade zone. So in 1977, they actually passed a law that within a radius of 60 miles of a particular area that's right next to the Salt Lake International Airport, there can actually be a free trade zone where elements can come in. It's not just for shipping or for tariffs, et cetera, but you can literally do things that connect digital and physical together is what we're positioning for. So think about the digital world and the physical world coming together, not just within a region like the European Union or the Pacific Union or these different countries within it. When I say countries, I'm talking about like places like kingdoms, like this Hawaiian kingdom is a very important step. This is a restoration of a kingdom that was taken over by another country. There truly is a difference and a segregation between an American and a Hawaiian. They're different. Does that mean that there should be any kind of separation between the two, or there should be any kind of, the reality is we're all one family. And the sooner that we figure out that we're all one family in one beautiful earth, the sooner that we can actually start working together and stop fighting, stop the pain, stop the chaos. So this is an example, but when you actually go to log in, which I'll do a quick demo of right now. So I'm going to grab, in this case, it's a Clear phone, but it'll work off of any type of phone, an Apple phone, a Google phone. For those that are new, just download Hawaiian Life within your app store, whatever it is, Apple or Google. And then you can do the same thing that I'm doing, where I log in, I can actually go and add a vehicle, I can add licenses, I can add certificates. Maybe it's a birth certificate, adoption certificate, marriage certificate, death certificate, you name it. Maybe it's a voting environment. Maybe it's creating a business. What I hope to do with someone that would like to actually create one today, and then maybe even a digital asset. And what we're going to talk about with that Jobs Act and that plus and the Reg D stuff is the ability to actually get listed in environments. And that's going to tie to a lot of the vision and the focus within this next year. And so I'll jump into that really fast. So for those of you that are not aware, since 2005, so now it's been 20 years, we actually hire a gentleman, we'll just call him Michael S., to actually come in and help all different Clear companies. And at that time, it was actually a company called Direct Point. So every year, about October, November, we'd come in and all of us would go off site and we would focus on what we would call one goal, or a wildly important goal, a WIG. So what is the one goal that all companies, everything is going to focus on, and then measure with lead measures and lag measures for the following weeks, 52 weeks until the end of that year. And this is going to review parts and pieces of it. But ultimately, remember, all of the Clear companies are there to support the digital world. The digital world primarily in the services that it offers. So there's lots of services, but how do we actually get to these services that can be delivered? And if council members say, you know what, we don't want to do that, or we don't want to focus on that, how can it be flexible enough to actually move around? And so this is actually the targeted goal around it. So this first year, or within 2025, one of our primary goals is actually to get the digital world into a public ecosystem that is separate from anything that we've ever done. And for those of you that are not aware, we've actually gone through the process. Let's see if we can, actually, there's another one I want to find. No, by the way, we're going to go to CES tomorrow, which is Computer Electronics Show. Um, I think we just lost some folks. There we go. Give me just 60 seconds here. So initially, it's primarily with the native asset that is in the digital world. The digital world really has one core asset that runs it, and that is native submitted through Coinbase to basically go live. Oh boy. And when you look at some of these other assets, what is it that you notice that is unique or different? What you see is maybe a digital US dollar, or what's called DALA. By the way, if someone can tell me if they have DALA up, that would be great. I'd like to do an example transfer, or digital Canadian dollars, or digital Mexican dollars, or digital XRP, or
I have some DALA, Michael.
okay. If you want to just share,
I have some DALA.
if you want to just share your screen, I'll show folks what this really. So if you want, oh boy, it's grainy. That might not work. Lighting is crazy. We'll see. Okay, so if you want to just pull open your wallet, I don't know that it'll work, but we'll go ahead and give it a try. Go ahead and go to DALA and then just say receive. And you may need to text your address if this is too grainy, which I think it's going to be. Your light is super duper bad. So let's go ahead and throw it up. It might not be the light in your plate. Oh, camera just got better when he left. Yeah, maybe that will work. Go ahead and just throw your oh boy.
Oh boy, that's bad.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, hey. Whoa. There's something there. Hold on. That's going to work. That's going to work great. Give me just a second to turn my camera on. Go. There you go. Good girl. There you go. Let's see here. Okay. So I'm just going to, for those that are not paying attention, that is a public key and a scan of a public key. Now, if she's in my contacts, it'll automatically come up into decentralized contacts that the world doesn't see, but I as an individual in mine can see. So I don't need to really have her in there per se. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to push send. I'm going to put my fingerprint on it. And within 7 seconds, it'll go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you notice that actually went through. So there was 100 that were sent, and these represent dollars. So if you want to just show us your screen or refresh there, Danielle, that would be great. So, and then maybe show them a transaction history so they can see that not only it just went, there you go. Yeah, so you can see.
So
you can see that her balance is already there. Now, what you just experienced was real-time transfer, so really no delays, no government, no fees, and ultimately no delay. That is the future of commerce, and it's not just around a Hawaiian dollar, which is a restored Hawaiian kingdom asset that they had before, but it can tie to many other things that we talk about within the society. So like, for instance, this Hawaiian dollar here, by the way, thank you, Danielle. And so imagine that actually being listed on public environments, and then you'll notice down here, Clear, which actually represents some of the Clear companies. And when we say Clear companies, we're talking about really a future type of fund. And I'm going to be specific here. So a fund, those that are not aware, we had a fund one, it was originally 107 million. There were some things that fell out. It ended up being 78 million. And out of those 78 million, you had these companies that were funded. Clear Foundation, Clear Center, Clear Cellular, Clear Life, Clear Health, Clear Software, and then the basis of Clear companies. So you're talking about 2, 4, 5, 7 companies from 2009 to 2024, 78 million, 1.6 billion in estimated value, which is an IRR of 41.2 IRR. So that's kind of a reality of Fund 1. And then when we look at this next fund that we're talking about new types of businesses that are, again, using the digital world and centralized or decentralized systems for 2 years to basically build an additional fund. And then we plan on an additional fund in 2027. So for those that are not aware, that ties to the Clear. I'm going to go to clear.co. And you can see the history of these different organizations that have basically been stood up and what they've accomplished, the products that they've launched, the sites that they launched. Has it been easy? No. Has it been amazing and difficult? Absolutely. Has it been worth it? It's been phenomenal. And I can only imagine what the future is going to hold. But when we look at the vision and we look at these other ecosystems, that's basically what we're executing through, are actually launching funds that are tied to physical assets, tied to digital assets, going and actually raising their own abilities to stand with their own teams within this digital world. Are we going to run them all? No. Are there categories that people can actually get into this? Yes. Is it going to take many years to go down this? Yes. But decentralized systems can adopt in these different, for instance, take one maybe like insurance, right? It may sound like it's a common type thing, but when you start taking heuristics and data off of a decentralized world with digital reputation, it changes everything. When you think about properties, or funds for properties, or homes, or autos, or title, all of it gets really, really streamlined and simple. So that's what we're focused on in 2025, primarily focused around the digital world and adoption, specifically when it comes to these types of documents, because these actually enable some of the stuff that we're talking about within this environment. Any questions or thoughts before we move on to a different topic? The different topic is, so when we talk about this Start Engine, which is basically a crowdfunding platform that we'll use with some of these different funds, we're talking about an invitation to a new type of TV show. So you've all heard of The Apprentice, or what's the other one? What's the one that Kevin O'Leary does?
Shark Tank.
Shark Tank. Thank you. So Shark Tank. So think about this kind of being the future Shark Tank type reality. So instead of being in one audience, it's actually out in the world, and you will have different individuals that will basically be doing it. This will be the hosts. These will be the judges, or these are actually the Shark Tank. These are actually the competitive type of shows. And we've actually been invited by these folks to be the first debut and launch in front of these judges that will actually go live. And this is going to be a public offering to any individual that wants to get involved with Clear. But think about it this way. You can actually get involved from kind of a debt/equity standpoint that can convert into a digital asset. So the goal is to bridge the equity markets that are private and public, that are regulated in the world, all the way to the non-regulated crypto ecosystem, but pulling everything together at the same time with this new type of ecosystem. So the first one's actually going to be at this location. It's actually targeted to happen in April, and we will actually launch one of these companies from that environment. So we're grateful to be a part of it. We're grateful to be invited. We're grateful to be the first one. We actually went through the Start Engine crew and approval process today, and actually got elements of that. We have another buy-off on Friday of this week. So those are some of the basic updates. There's a lot more to it. I can go through some of the products, and that's probably a good use of time before we turn it over to questions. So questions are coming. So today's store looks like this. I'm going to close all these out. So today's store looks like this. These are past products that are sold out, which we're going to retire. These are current products. And then these are future products. There's also 2 other products that are not listed on here that we'll talk about. But what you're going to see here is an execution of products that will be continually released throughout the 2025 year, starting with the focus of decentralization. You'll see new Clear Cellular programs, which is voice, data, text, as well as satellite combined into a simple monthly fee, payable with digital US dollars. You'll see some existing phone lines that get updated. You'll see some new phone lines that will actually be coming online. Very disruptive, very important. We've actually had interactions with the two vendors that are not core to the Clear organizations, which we mentioned here is Tesla and X. That's happened within the last 24 hours. Again, there's a lot of work there to be done though. And then we'll launch other types of products that basically are access devices, whether they're cameras or videos, that will tie to decentralized systems. The goal is to tie them to physical assets, which this last week, we're looking at the third vault, as well as supply chain that ties to some of these free economic zones. One of them that directly ships from Switzerland into both Utah as well as Wyoming, which we'll be digging into in the future. And the goal is to buy silver and gold and then convert that to a digital asset as a receipt that can then be shared globally and then tie back to this original goal of some of these things. And some people may not understand how this could actually be. Like, how could you get digital Bitcoin? How could you actually get Bitcoin that can transfer in real time and actually own a real Bitcoin on the other side of it, but actually have an asset that's the future? How can you tie to simple wrappers around that? And we'll spend a lot of time kind of going through the details of that. But when it's backed by gold, a lot of the conversations ends up shifting, because that's really the world's concern. Is they say, hey, if it's crypto, yes, I can have it if they really understand key management, but it's not backed by anything. And I would argue that even Bitcoin is backed by something. It's backed by the miner, the asynchronous miner that came up with a mathematical algorithm to actually get the coin. One, it's a game how they did it. But two, they actually had to pay a power bill. So they had to pay cash in whatever currency they were in to get the power. Some people said, you know what, we just did it in an apartment, or we did it on a car, or we did crazy stuff on how they did it. But the point that I'm trying to drive at is there was a value exchange. And so people have an inherent value in the energy that it took to actually get that. Just like with gold and silver, whether it was out of a mountain or a stream, etc., it's the energy that was behind it to pull it and find it from the earth. That is the value of gold and silver. The real value of gold and silver, we don't use it in our real lives per se. Some people would argue that there's a mass usage and supply issue on silver, but the real value is around perception, adoption, and utilization in the real world that ties to the digital world. And that's what this conversation is all about. So with that being said, there'll be a lot of programs that will come out around rewards on how you use things, and then additional things around how we actually adopt systems. Maybe it's a bicycle, maybe it's a car, maybe it's a home. But imagine if you can actually use a digital reputation to actually live in a private world where you're respected, where you're actually connected, and it comes from a life-based app. Whether it's Hawaiian Life that you just downloaded on your device, whether it's Tuvalu Life, Fiji Life, Samoa Life, Tongan Life, Aotearoa Life, or maybe even Mexican Life or Canadian Life that's coming next. So the key is understanding decentralization, the history of it. We have a rich history of ClearOS Server, ClearVM virtualization, and in platforms with some of the biggest and the best in the world. This is a mock-up of what is to come within the next short period of time. Between now and the end of this month, you'll actually see an updated interim Clear.store, what we just went through here. That will be a stepping stone between what is currently here and what will actually be launched. So those are two things that are important. We've gone through the funds, we've gone through the different products, etc. And that's basically a general update as to what's going on. I won't talk a little bit about the regions unless people want to dig into it, but I'll go ahead and pause there. Any questions, thoughts, comments, feedback? Now is your time, beautiful people.
Well, I've got something to say, Michael. I recently just brought some swimming togs with Bitcoin through the Commerce payout system, and to see the native there. So you're saying that we'll be able to use our digital world coins through the Commerce system, the same system?
So the native asset within the digital world basically provides a medium of exchange and services. So if people are buying things like, let's say, a license plate or a registration or some form of an ID, they can basically use native, or they can transfer it into whatever currency they're domiciled in. Maybe it's the Hawaiian Kingdom, maybe it's the country of the Canadian country, maybe it ties to even down in Australia. Maybe we could stand up an environment there that would pair with the digital Australian dollar. So native is not to replace Bitcoin, but if Bitcoin were actually purchased and then wrapped with a digital asset that could transfer in real time, that would basically, and you see a lot of these types of things, there's Uniswap and multiple other environments to do it. But that's where we will eventually be going. But they're really two separate topics. Native in the digital world is one topic. And what we plan on doing with it, which we've never done before, we've been very conservative. We haven't ever gone and launched a crypto in the world. Like all 15 years worth of work, we've never actually gone out and done the gambling, done the legalized speculation or illegal speculation, or however you want to call it. We've been very conservative and disciplined. And to be honest with you, we've been financially prudent and just done as much as we can with the resources that we have. And so far in the last 15 years, we've spent about $78 million. And out of that $78 million, I believe there's massive IRR and value that can actually do that. And I think one of the companies within this next year will actually sell, and it'll turn liquid, which will create another reality. So when we look at some of these different companies here, so these are the ones in the first fund that actually went live. And I believe that this guy here will have an exit of over $1 billion. And it's not directly involved with ClearHealth, but it specifically ties to the team members and the innovation and tech that basically originated there. You've got the Life, which is an app, the Cellular, which is phones, which we'll do a lot more with, storage with ClearCenter, and then productivity apps. And we'll talk a lot more about those hopefully in this next year. So, but when we really dig into the core of your question, this native asset is different from any kind of digital Bitcoin asset. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
it does.
Other thoughts or comments? Great question. Great observation.
So, Michael, I have a question.
Yeah.
If I would really like to get out of the centralized systems. I get, for instance, I get a pension from my company. Could I get that into the digital world, into my digital, my
Yep.
Clear wallet, my
Yeah,
ClearPay wallet?
You could actually go to the digital world or one of the jurisdictions in the digital world, like one of the Hawaiian King. I'll pull up some of them. So if I go to the Pacific Union, they do a really good job of documenting the different jurisdictions. So you could go to one of these environments, or the Mexican country's not here as well, but you could go to like one of these and you could actually log in and you could actually create your own business. You could get a federal employer identification number, whether it's in Canada or whether it's in America, wherever you want to actually have an account. And then you could actually have your pension directly deposited into that environment, and or purchase gold that then has a digital receipt tied to it. And then it depends on the jurisdiction. For instance, the Mexican country doesn't have it just yet, but some of these other countries do, where you would actually have a card that would go with it. So you would actually be able to then tie to the physical, and I wouldn't recommend this, but there's a transition where the current centralized systems, not everybody understands or recognizes the ability to send a transaction just like we did earlier, but they recognize, hey, Visa and MasterCard. And so you create possible a taxable event going from that, but it's the same taxable event you already have, where pension comes in, could be construed as income. I don't know if you pay taxes on that or not. I don't know what Canadian pensions look like, but does that make sense? So if you went in and started a business, you could actually get a bank account and then have your, like right now, you give your pension, whoever's administering it, you actually give them direct deposit information into a real world checking account, right?
Correct, yes,
So you-
exactly, but I don't want that anymore.
So you could actually move
I want
off
to
of
get away
that.
from the bank.
Yeah, you can move off of that if you wanted to just pick a jurisdiction. What I would recommend is you wait until the Canadian country is live, just like this Mexican country is live. And you
Okay.
actually tie because they're going to have, and we're going to,
Yeah, I lost you. I don't know if anybody else did. I don't know if it's my connection or yours.
no, it's totally
No,
my
it's his connection. I can
It's-
get.
It's all on my side. So we're all good. No, I've shut everything
Yeah,
down.
the last I heard from you would having to do with like wait until Canadian goes live, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't
so-
hear anything after that either.
So I'm sorry, I'm using too many resources on my system and I've maxed it out, so to speak. But hopefully we're good to go now. So what I was trying to say earlier was, if you wanted to do it all within Canada, with the Canadian bank and with the Canadian pension fund, we should stand up the Canadian country and then basically tie all those together. You know, there's a lot of unknowns there, but if you want, we could walk you through creating a digital business right now. And you could actually,
Okay,
so you could do it in the digital world, or you could do it within another jurisdiction like the Hawaiian Kingdom. Brandy, you're always welcome to just interrupt anytime, no worries. So you can literally,
I can't see the presentation. Am I supposed to be looking at something? I've been listening, which is great. I just can't see any video of presentation.
yeah, you should be seeing a presentation the whole time. So let me go ahead
We
and
did,
share this again.
Michael, we did.
Are you seeing
Mine
it?
just
Yeah, we
barely
did.
went
I
off as
saw it.
well.
Okay, awesome.
Just FYI.
Can you guys see it now? Can you see a presentation here? So
Yes.
were you, Brandy, were you able
No.
to see it earlier?
no, my screen is black.
Here, I'm gonna go ahead and try and share again, just so that we're all on the same page. How about now?
No,
Nothing, huh?
Mine's black too.
Ah, boy.
I can see your screen, Michael, so I'm
Okay, now I
not too
can
sure.
see it.
'cause there's
Hey, it's
other
good that
problems.
we at least got one or two. Let's go ahead. I'll go ahead and shut it off one last time, and then
I saw the last one.
you did. Okay. Hopefully this
The last
comes-
one, yeah.
And just really, it's really bad. I got to clean up my system, so to speak. So I've just got too many things open. But you should be able to see it now. If you can't, let me know. But
No,
I-
can't see it.
I
okay.
still can't see it.
How about now? Do you
No.
see the Digital World's website?
I can see it now.
Okay.
I can't.
No.
No. Okay. Well, so that's basically
Now I can.
okay. So let's go ahead and have
Well-
you share your screen, Danielle, and we'll walk you through it. No, you can't see it.
No, can't see
No.
it again.
Why don't you
It's
share
going
your
in and out.
Why don't you share your screen and we'll see if it's working for you.
Okay, so I need to go into the digital world, correct?
Yeah. Or you can go into the Hawaiian Kingdom or whatever jurisdiction you want to start them in. So I would, why don't you start with the Hawaiian Kingdom? Because you've got well, I guess you've got Clear Life as well.
Yeah, I've got Clear Life.
Pick one of them. I'd recommend the Hawaiian Kingdom just because I know a bunch of stuff, but
I don't think I have the Hawaiian Kingdom.
it doesn't, just go to share your screen and open up a website, and it will be hawaii.country.
Okay, hang on a minute. Hawaii.country.
You want to share your screen too, Daniel. And that's
Yeah.
one
Yeah,
one
let me
gorgeous
share.
thing about this tech. I don't know, Brandy. Brandy, are you able to see a shared screen yet?
I am not.
You're not. Yeah, I guess you can see it streaming on the X account too. That's one way to do it, is you just watch it on one of the other accounts.
Oh, should I just go to Twitter?
Yeah,
Would
you
that-
can go to
that be
Twitter
good?
or X and watch it streaming, but you're gonna have a little delay. But regardless, okay, so here we go. So we're looking at Danielle's screen, which, by the way, on this platform, you can have multiple screens shared at the same time. Go ahead and click on member login, Danielle. And then click on where it says click here to get QR code. And this is, for those that are not aware, this is a live dynamic QR code that only lasts a certain period of time. It's unique to this session. Danielle, if you would open up either Hawaiian Life on your Apple phone or Clear Life on your Clear phone, and then scan this. This is going to use 5-factor authentication, something Danielle has, something she knows, something she is, and something that she's actually linked to with the derived key in a certain space and time. All of those factors she owns, she controls. With 2-factor authentication, it's kind of a joke because Google or Apple have the actual authentication on their side, which means when they get FASB requests, it literally can, yeah, you don't have a wallet tied to it. That's okay. So she's actually authenticated in here. You don't want to do a vehicle right now, but click on organizations. If you go down, click on business. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start a new business in the digital world in the Hawaiian Kingdom. Say add a new business on your top right in the red button, and then go ahead and select what kind of business you want to do. So this is going to be, go ahead and drop that down.
So what am I selecting?
We can't see it, but you maybe just say business.
Oh.
Business one. The rest of the world,
Business, okay.
the rest of the world won't be able to see it. So name, just throw in whatever company you want to create. Okay. And then go ahead and put in a website. The website is actually what ties to the digital ecosystem. So for people that are questioning, what is this digital world? Well, these are websites that we go to. They have their own jurisdiction. They have their own cultures, etc. So just go ahead and type in your website that you have with this company. And if you don't, you can. Well, if you don't, you can select down below, which don't do it right now, just because we're running through a quick demo. Just throw in a domain that you wished it were, because you can change this later on. But you can get up to 430 different top-level domains, which is like, abc.news, abc.health, etc. So thrive.news, or whatever you want it to be. WeThrive.com, if that's what you want, so be it. Yep. And then down below, and this is what's unique about this whole digital world. When you click on that and then you scan it, just like you did to log in, go ahead and do that real fast. It's going to give you.
Click here?
Yep, click there. You got it. It's going to go ahead and scan that just like you did when you logged in. And what's happening here is what's unique about the digital world. It's creating a derived key so that machine learning and artificial intelligence can't actually follow her. So she's going to go ahead and scan that. Again, with 5-factor authentication. So even if someone jacked her login capabilities, they still couldn't act as her without her device. And her device, whether she's using her Apple device and it's connected to Hawaiian Life or it's using her Clear phone, that derived key that just popped there is literally unique to her using 5-factor authentication that she creates. Go ahead and scroll all the way to the bottom. But notice on the right, you can actually create a business within different jurisdictions. For those that have actually created a business, you understand how valuable this simple process is. Click on logo and then grab a file for your new business, or it's an existing business, it doesn't matter. And the value of this is creating a jurisdiction that we all can be a part of. We can all benefit from, and it's a jurisdiction that basically people can choose to adopt. Now, I don't know if it pulled up in a window or you're finding a file there, but the goal is to find a logo, Danielle.
Yeah, but can I change this after?
You can. Yep, you can. Yep, you totally can. But it just
Okay,
needs
so
an
hang on
image.
Okay.
So again,
let me think.
while she's looking for that, we all choose what culture we're going to be a part of. Whether we are born in a certain country and believe we have a certain citizenship, or we choose to be in a particular state or province or region around the world, whether it's a country, a nation, a kingdom, etc. So go ahead and say add organization. But the key is it's up to us based upon what we choose. That's one of the big things that people don't understand, and they just have to change their mind. So Danielle's created a new business here. We've got Thrive. Go ahead and click on the word Thrive at the top.
The word what?
The Thrive. So you see where
Thrive?
just a little bit up. Go up.
Yep.
So there you go. So now we're into this business. That's okay. Go ahead, and that's looking for your wallet. So when you scroll down here, you can see that she can actually now administer this business. She created this business with a cryptographic key. The world doesn't know who she is, but she can validate that this business is hers. Go ahead and continue to go down. So you can see the creation process. You can see the different documents that she can upload. She can add new members to it. If there's multiple different members that actually make decisions within the company or an organization, she can create polls or voting. Go ahead and keep scrolling down. And then she can basically have different assets and a reputation. So go all the way to the top, and we're going to click and see what the world sees. This is what you can see now that you're logged in, but see the view page on the top right in red? View page top right. It's a little bit down. There you go. You're close to it. Go ahead and click on that. And this is actually it should open a new window for her. And if are you sharing your
I did.
well, but the rest of the
Can you
world,
see it?
I think you're just sharing a window, not your whole screen. So we actually won't see that. But basically,
No, I'm sharing.
no, you're just sharing. When you shared it,
Oh, wait, okay, wait, share this tab instead, I think is what it's
you
telling
got
me.
it. That's
Okay.
exactly right. You got it. Okay, so this is what the world actually sees. So this is a publicly facing entity. You can see the digital world identity that she has there. You can see that, that's actually registered. If she clicks on certificate of incorporation, which again, she's sharing just a tab, so the rest of us won't be able to see it. But it actually is an incorporation document that's unique to her world. Go ahead and scroll down. You can see, I wonder why you've got a reputation. That's actually started out really well. I don't know why. Usually it starts at 0. Okay, go ahead and run down. If you want to see her identity online, keep going down. The more she fills in, whether it's articles of incorporation, bylaws, assets, go ahead and click on that red thing that you just passed over. Scroll back up, if you would, please. Right there, digital manager. So this is what the world actually recognizes as her. They don't know who she is, but she can start filling in photos, which will automatically blur, so artificial intelligence and machine learning won't follow it. And then the ability for people to actually see who she is, they can interact with her digital identity through a scan. So go ahead and click on the click here. Don't scan it, but this is an example of what the world could actually do. Now, it's important to note that the world can start doing things without any kind of live application, but their normal camera. Go ahead and push escape. And so this is just an example of someone that logs into a jurisdiction, go ahead and go back button, creates a business from a decentralized identity. No, just go back button, or maybe it's the other tab. Yeah, so you can see here, she's created a real business. And what if she could actually put a federal employer identification number in and use this registration to go create a bank account in the real world and then validate the connections between the two? Because that's what's going to happen in 2025. You're going to see digital assets and physical assets actually coming together. You're going to see digital accounts and physical accounts actually commingle the assets. Everything in the physical world, or what we would even call the money creation world today, will actually convert over to a cryptographic asset. Now, the question is, will it be centralized or decentralized? And that's where we need to be very, very concerned on one hand and vigilance on the other hand, so it becomes a reality that true decentralization is actually received. So Danielle, thanks for running through that. I hope that answers your question around, kind of the future of what could you actually do as to how you can govern your own lives. And think about it, you logged in very simply, you actually created a business.
That was so easy.
We could actually, if you wanted to, we could actually create a digital asset. If you want, it's just as fast as that. You can share, if while she's doing this, if anybody else has any questions, please feel free. But go ahead and share your screen again. Share the whole window so we don't have to jump tabs if you're okay. And then what you would do is you would click into that business and you say, click no assets found, create one right there in the middle. Kind of in the white box right there. So we're going to go ahead and create an asset, same process. So you're going to come up with the asset's name. For instance, this is what Ethereum did, but in a very rudimentary way. So she's not only just created a business. Go ahead and throw in all the details as you can. So digital asset name.
Well,
Let's say that I don't
What
know
am I
what this.
calling it?
What does this Thrive organization do?
I don't know. You
Let's just say.
I'm
Let's just say.
making it up as I go along.
Let's just
It's
say
not
that
a real
it.
business.
Let's say that it drives awareness. Okay. So you're going to give
Okay, but
rewards.
yes, okay.
You're going to give rewards for driving awareness. So we're going to say that this is an awareness reward. So just type in awareness reward. And then over under digital asset ticker, let's call it a AW, okay? Actually, AWD, okay? And then over on the right, let's go ahead and choose an image and choose the image that you already selected for your main one, just so it's easy for you. Okay.
Okay. I just gotta find it.
While she's finding it, I'm going to walk through what the next couple things are. Oh, she's already done it. So this is authorized versus issued. So let's say you want to authorize 1,000 rewards. Go ahead and type in 1,000. And then the next is going to be, you're going to issue 1,000, okay? And so if she doesn't want to ever issue anymore, she would click the button on the right to lock it. And if she had partners, then the partners could actually have, no, don't click that. And then down below where it says asset type, go ahead and down arrow that. For those that can't see her window because she's sharing just a tab, what she's seeing is the ability to do tokens, NFTs, assets, coins, as well as rewards. Go ahead and select rewards.
Okay.
And then let's not link it. We're not going to link these to real dollars. These are going to be a speculative asset. It'll float on its own. So if you wanted to link it to real dollars, you could actually say click to link to currency, and then you could select any currency in the world and link it. We're not going to do that. This isn't a stable asset. So here, go ahead and click here to get unique identity. And you're going to scan that with your Life app. And Life apps are cross-compliant against all currencies and countries, so to speak. So you can log into any country with a Life app, but your base assets within the Life app are tied to whatever jurisdiction you actually downloaded it. So she's in the Hawaiian Kingdom. If she wanted to have the Hawaiian dollar as a base asset, she would use Hawaiian Life. We're going to go ahead and say create asset now. By the way, that unique identifier created a unique identifier for her to be able to grab that asset securely, as all the way in the bottom right. So if you click that generate, scroll all the way to the bottom and then go to the right button. Yep, perfect. So you've actually created a digital asset now. Go ahead and say okay, and go ahead and click out of that. So if you click on AWD in the middle, see that? There you go. You can actually, so you can actually see.
That's crazy.
Yeah, what's really cool is if you actually wanted to do this, scroll all the way down. With the Hawaiian Life app and Apple, it actually works better than it does on Android because Android can actually do a little bit more things. But if you wanted to drop this digital asset onto your phone and then send it to somebody else, you would click on get QR code, and then you would actually send, like I sent you 100 Hawaiian dollar, you would spend 5 of those to actually create a digital asset, and then you could share it with other folks. So that this is basically, think about it.
Wow.
You create a digital identity.
That's crazy.
You created a digital business. You created a digital asset. You can tie that asset to things in the real world. And not only that, but earlier on, we sent a digital asset real time. And based upon wherever you want to domicile your life or whatever jurisdiction you want to be built in, you can literally start governing yourself based upon jurisdictions that are actually going to compete for you to be in their environment. For instance, today, the
We
legislature.
did this in 10 minutes.
Yeah, all of it.
We did this whole thing in 10 minutes.
Yep. Isn't it neat? And it's not complicated. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's not as complicated as you thought, right?
No, it's not. No.
So that's it. I mean,
Well, maybe because you were walking me through it.
and sometimes that's all it needs. I'm a terrible teacher, but I think that if other people can actually start seeing these types of things, the systems can actually get adopted. So next question, thought.
So somebody
Go ahead.
who has an actual business can do this,
Yeah. Are the,
and they could
are the lights going on?
transact and
Not only that, they could
Yeah.
actually imagine. And now go, if you shared your screen again and go back into that the digital business side of it. So just share your screen for a second. And then if you go in back to the business view, so I think if you push the back button, your back arrow. Okay, right here, do you notice how it says get listed? That get listed ties into what we're doing with some of these crowdfunding engines. So people can actually use the cryptographic asset that they have created in their digital business and actually offer it with these crowdfunding platforms that are basically today, they're in the compliant world. So Jobs Act, Reg A, Reg D, etc. But what happens if you actually have a digital asset that can be tied into this mix and shared with the whole world? It will link the physical and digital environments together like humanity's never seen. And it will do it within jurisdictions that actually want to serve their people instead of enslave their people. Because really, whoever creates currencies creates the rules. And if those that create the rules don't care about the rest of the world, I would say, well, I'll be specific here. Here's an example. So if you go back to 1450, so this is BC or AD. So 80 years, Portugal was the standard as the world reserve currency. And then Spain was 110 years. Netherlands was 80 years. France was 95 years. Britain was 105 years. The US has been a little bit over 100 and is still the standard. But what if a system like this that basically gave people the ability to transact, total transparency, no delays, no governments, no banks, and no fees? Do you see the future here? Can you see why I can make the arrogant comment around this could actually be Bitcoin that humans use in real time? Are the lights going on?
So when can we start?
You already
When
have.
can we start transacting?
Like think about it. You just did. Like it's not complicated, but people have to believe.
Okay, Michael.
Go ahead.
As you guys did that, I read through the Jobs Act to have a look at the regulation.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have a question. So the disclosure requirements for digital regulation, which I think is Reg A, which you talked about, the crowdfunding platform. It talks about like businesses must submit offering documents, including financial statements, to the decentralized registry for public access. So even though obviously we have to know our customer, because we can't go creating companies willy-nilly and they just kind of sit there. And if you're saying that there's no people, that's, you know, there's no one in between. Obviously there's someone there that has to view it, right?
Yep, you're spot on. So think about what I talked about earlier, where there's a physical and digital connection. And so for someone to actually publish these types of documents, which for me personally, I think they should be private, but in this world, they're actually raising money from a public ecosystem. So for instance, the historical stuff that's happened out there with crypto, it's been a free-for-all. So any Tom, Dick, or Harry can basically think they can talk about crypto this and crypto that and not even understand how to develop or code or build a business. But in this ecosystem, if people are going to put funds in, they're going to have some transparency, they're going to have some accountability, they're going to have some regulations. But on the flip side of it, now remember, these Reg A and Reg D structures basically tie to existing regulations within the United States of America. So this is the digital world adopting a Jobs Act in the digital world that mirrors the Jobs Act within the physical world. And then you connect those digital assets. So for instance, let's say that someone wanted to sell debt that then could convert to equity, that then could convert to a digital asset. And imagine if that digital asset is either private or public. Because when I talked about this vision here, this Coinbase is actually a non-security asset that's sold on a central exchange, which in my opinion, and I don't want to say something negative about companies, but the goal is to use true decentralization long-term, not centralized decentralization, which is actually what Coinbase is. Coinbase is centralized decentralization. So was FTX. All of these folks that are doing these types of things, Kraken, Binance, all of them are literally centralizing decentralized systems. And ultimately, that is not what this is about. What this is about is creating environments where the individual owns their own identity and their own assets only, but then they connect into the centralized systems. So for instance, the centralized systems today have regulations. And if you can find, remember that fine line, remember that slide where I popped up here where it was like, how do we come together right in the middle of the government environments with regulations and centralized stuff, and in free environments that are private and decentralized? How do we find that common ground? That's what this regulation is really trying to do. And if, me personally, I don't like this. We've never done it before. But when you take it on a debt structure that has a convertible note to it that can go to equity and or that can then go over to a digital asset that can float on its own, that's where real value is going to actually have massive multiples. And that's why we could make comments around, you know, an internal rate of review, an IRR of 1,000%. That's crazy. Or 500%. That's nuts. And what we've already feel like we've realized at 41%. I mean, that's just unheard of. So that's basically where we're going. And the thing that's interesting is the businesses in these digital world ecosystems, they're starved from a cash standpoint. Why? Because everybody and anybody that understands anything around cryptography and the future and the shift that's happening wants to come out of fiat cash and get it into digital assets so that can have some growth and accretiveness to it. You know, everybody that I know, I mean, I know people that have crazy amounts of money, billions into systems, and they're not pulling them out. So now there may be other reasons, but the net is the fiat system will continue to go down in value while the digital system, especially digital assets that are tied to real world assets like gold and silver, will actually go up or be accretive. So if you could ask your question and make sure that I answered all of it within this Jobs Act, that would be great.
Yeah, I guess just to clarify, it was because I think looks so easy to go create a business. And then I think it's just, we need to understand collectively that, you know, that transparency is there where we understand, we know who our customer is. And I actually want to sign this Jobs Act because I think it's very important. Can I, actually, I'm going to sign all of them, but do I just put my initials down the bottom, Michael?
No, you know what, if you want to, you can, but the way that we're actually doing the full signing, so I'm going to pull up the Hawaiian Kingdom and I'm going to go to councils, and I think it's under this general council. Actually, I'm going to go to council meetings. Oh boy. I don't want to join it. I want to actually find it. Where are they? There's actually a meeting location that has, if anybody could help me, that would be great. Because I don't, I know how to find it. Here, I'll go find it. I'm going to go to Facebook. I'm going to scroll down in Facebook because this was actually posted live. So we're going to go down here. We are going to find the latest Hawaiian Kingdom meeting. By the way, these things are streamed live. And then the link on them, so right here. So you can see this was actually the different letters. And then you can see the voting over here. And then you can see the different meetings. And this is actually the meeting. So the problem is the Hawaiian Council actually is more advanced than the digital world from these systems. But you should be able to come in and read a document and say, I agree with it or I don't. And then you scan it. This will be where the cryptographic signatures actually get applied. Does that make sense? So, but there's not one for the digital world yet, just the Hawaiian Kingdom.
Oh, okay. So how did you go with the Hawaiian Kingdom? Did everyone vote? How are we monitoring the statistics of people who actually understand?
That's a great question. What's funny is this body here, because we've been doing this, I don't know, these digital world town hall meetings for years, like almost 3, 4 years. So most people on these other councils don't understand or see that. So that link that I just sent you is where people can actually review the document. So if you clicked on it, you'd click on, like, let's say I want to look at an insurance act. This is actually the document. They can run down it and review it. It's also in English and Hawaiian and has a legislative process around it. So these guys are actually more advanced than the digital world today, but that's exactly a perfect example around how this will actually work. So this is the actual checkoff process. This is the actual document in Hawaiian. And so they would review it, and then they would go back over and say, I've reviewed that, now I approve it. Does that make sense? When I click on approve, it'll go that way. So
Yeah.
does that answer your
Yeah.
question though?
Is there like sunset clauses within those documents as well? Have you guys closed off the?
Those are all still open until the end of this, until the end of this month. Our document should go 3 to 6 months and just keep them open, and, you know, but,
Okay.
and I would even say once they're signed, people could still say, hey, I'm a council member. I want to open this back up for this and this and this reason. The goal is to let everyone govern themselves, whether it's around land management, asset management, document management, but you cryptographically actually bring up the point that says, you know, this land had this issue and we need to bring it to a head. And maybe there's a dispute over it. This document needs this amendment and we need to vote on it and bring it to a head. The goal is to let transparency and honesty surface. It's just like what happened with Wikipedia. But Wikipedia is just an encyclopedia that people can say this is what this means or what this is. But think about taking that same concept, putting in cryptography around it, and then opening it up to multiple systems. Not financial systems, because they're all using the same structure, but technology actually does that transaction. For instance, when I sent an asset over to Danielle, you know, she received it and there's a ledger behind it. So the world will actually see it. So I don't know if that makes sense. but-
Okay, so just on what you just said as well, like you can invest in other people's businesses, like throughout the ecosystem, correct?
Yeah.
Like if I wanted to invest in Danielle's Thrive company, then I could invest in her company.
Yep. And there's actually going to be 2 different types of investments, so to speak. And one could be a debt instrument that could convert to an investment through an equity conversion, but one would be private and one would be public. And the stuff with the Jobs Act is actually positioned to be public, where any Tom, Dick, or Harry, qualified, unqualified, accredited, unaccredited, wants to put in $25 versus $2,500. It literally levels the playing field. It takes the VCs out of it. It takes the centralized systems out of it. It's really creating a stock market for everyone. So, but Danielle, if she wanted to list that asset, she would have to go do it in multiple environments. So one, today there is no decentralized exchange for the digital world. Now I'll say today. Pay close attention, because one of these businesses right here is actually going to position that in the future. Imagine trades that have no fees in their real time, and actually the custodian is the individual, not a centralized system. So really you've got public companies with Start Engine, you've got private entities that are not necessarily equities, but they're commodities or they're currencies that are not an equity that ties to some of these other environments. And that's where, you know, when here, what are we at, the 7th? So in a couple days, 18 days or so, we've got, no, not even that, 13 days, we've got, you know, people that are going to be pulled in. I believe that everybody in the Security and Exchange Commission that was negative on crypto is going to get the boot, and everybody that's positive is going to try and come in. And hopefully they're going to end up using 3 things: equities, commodities, and currencies that are either public or private. That's what it's all going to come down to. It's just that simple. Those 6 categories, and then those 6 categories plug into the digital world. So does that make sense? Any other thoughts or comments, feedback, guidance, recommendation?
I want to ask you another question.
Go ahead.
So let's say my company offers a service to somebody. Can I do that now and then have them pay my company in the digital world, in
Yeah.
Hawaiian Life?
Yeah,
or-
you know what's cool is
What?
we actually had some folks that stopped by earlier today that incorporated a business the same way that you did. And you know what they grow? They grow trees. And you know what they did? They actually,
wow.
for every tree that they plant in a certain region, they go in with the farmers and they basically say, hey, we just need the land. We're going to plant the trees. We're actually going to do these things with scalar fields. For those of you that were with us with the health and the energy stuff, you're going to be blown away because it's amazing. Because it's not just human bodies that can benefit from this, but plants and trees and insects and all this crazy stuff. So they're actually using scalar fields to grow trees that were the seeds of the trees were actually put into these fields before they were germinated. And then as they grow, so instead of taking 15 years, they take 3 years. And what they're doing is each tree gets tokenized as an asset. And then basically people can buy them early on and pay like 30% of it now. So they're buying the trees now and then they grow with them. Same things with beehives. By the way, the trees and the bees actually go together really well, whole nother quantity. But it's not just about technology. Decentralization is a true and correct principle for humanity. Whether it's in the water, whether it's in the air, whether it's in our bodies, whether it's in different species, or in the universe. It is a true and correct principle. And all we're doing is we're adapting these principles using intelligently organized technology for the betterment of humanity. Does that make sense?
100%.
And then they're using these companies. So they created a company, like you can even see it. If we go back in, I'm going to click right here so we can see your business. Notice that I can see you have one asset. You actually have a good reputation. This individual, this is he didn't create a digital business. If you see the comparative. So this was the tree business right here, okay? So Amplify Trees, he created a business and with an asset of the trees, he actually dropped it onto his phone, like literally. And then I won't even go into the details there. So this is your business. This is his business. The world sees it, but let's say we want to look at other things, maybe not just businesses. Let's say we want to look at maybe assets. So you can see these are real world assets with real VIN numbers, blah, 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 blah. You can dig into it. These are real people. Like you can see, like Becca, I can tell that that's Becca there. The world doesn't know that that's Becca, but we know that that's Becca. Like if we wanted to actually go, is this making sense? So for instance, she's going to, anyway, I'll stop blabbing. But do you see it? Or is it coming together in your mind? Different businesses, different assets, different organizations that are private.
So how do we transact inside our businesses? If I want to, if Becca has a business and I want to use her service, how do I pay her?
All right, so this top line here, these are currencies, digital currencies that are tied to physical assets. We'll go through the physical assets in the future. But imagine if you're in Canada, okay? So you had a Canadian dollar a digital dollar that was pegged to the Canadian dollar. And so the value of the Canadian dollar, as it depletes or goes down, because it will, because the digital ecosystems are going to gain in value. For instance, there was about $2 trillion that were printed in currencies, and there's about $2 trillion in value within the whole ecosystem. And actually, I know that's not true. There was less than that as far as currency and circulation. What was it? When we look at holdings, I shouldn't even guess. I'm not even going to do. I'll prepare a slide on this because I know where to go get it. But the point that I'm trying to say is you have a digital dollar that is a stable dollar tied to whatever currency that you want, and then it exchanges itself. Like when you went to create a company, I don't know if I'm logged in anywhere, but when you actually went to create a company, you had the ability to create an asset that could have been a currency that ties to a certain currency. So you could tie it right to the Canadian dollar. So the real goal is to have different standard stable currencies that pop up. Now, this is from a decentralized approach. There are centralized approaches that you're going to see. And you know what they're going to be? Things like Ripple or XRP. That will be a standard cross-border currency. However, it's centralized. The digital world
Absolutely.
is building a parallel system to that is decentralized. It is not a company. As a matter of fact, any of these companies here, one of the biggest goals is to get as many things automated as possible and get as many humans or error out of the way. I don't know if that makes sense, but we're trying to build companies in such an automated way where the humans, they don't have to be a liability. So I don't know if I answered your question, but digital US dollars is tied to $1 US. Digital dollar is the Hawaiian dollar is also $1 US. Why? Americans and Hawaiians, they kind of use the same measurement. Canadians, a little bit different. So the Canadian digital dollar will be tied to the Canadian dollar. Mexico, same thing. It's actually not a dollar, it's peso. But you understand what I'm driving at here, right?
Yeah, so my question still, you still haven't answered my question. If
Okay.
I want Becca's service and it's $100 US, can I send it from my wallet to her, from my company, from my business to her?
Yes, you would actually purchase digital assets that are receipts based
Okay.
upon physical
Okay.
gold or silver. So in other words, to get into this system, you're buying real assets. You're buying real gold and silver that has a receipt that you can convert into digital US dollars or Australian dollars or Canadian dollars that then has a currency exchange. It's really, I know it may be complicated today, but you kind of have to, you already understand this because you live in Canada and you understand the difference between foreign exchange of US dollars and Canadian dollar. You already get it. It's just one step before that. It's to get out of the existing fiat system into the digital system to then ride on the digital rails, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Okay, so I totally get it. So I will be able to purchase, well, I guess we have to wait for the exchange so that I can send my fiat, purchase my gold, get a digital receipt, and then I do with it what I want. I either send it to, send some money to Becca, or I load my debit card or whatever it is that I do with it, correct?
That's right. And when you load your debit card, if it's on Visa, MasterCard, American Express rails, you're actually getting back into the system. You're riding in their
I
environment.
know, that's
I saw this thing yesterday where Congress actually has MasterCard and Visa. They were interviewing them and they asked them, what is your margins? And I was like, oh, this is going to be great. Because when you dig into not MasterCard, American Express, just Visa alone, they transfer about $14 billion over a 24-hour period on average, and they charge 2.4% on average. And so that's $336 million per day in charges. And if they're saying half of those things are margins, which I actually disagree. I'll bet you they're making 80+% margins. But look at this slide, okay? So imagine taking $14 billion in transfer over a 24-hour period, making $336 million US, and they think that it transfers in 3 to 5 seconds, which it really doesn't. The merchant doesn't get paid for days, multiple days. So think about that. Right. And if they're saying they're making 50% in margin, which think about it. How many buildings do they have to pay for? How many people do they have to pay for? All it is a network. And you know what? The digital world just replaced that whole network with less than 3 to 8 seconds of full transfer. You saw it earlier, and less than $1 to transfer what they charge $336 million a day for. Like
oh my God, Michael, that's insane.
Yep. It's massive difference.
Okay, so wait. I'm grasping this now, so I have to keep going. So I buy something from Becca, so I don't have to use my Visa debit card. I could just send her, like I could just send her gold or a silver or something like that. Correct?
You got it. That's exactly right. And imagine this. Let's say that you actually bought gold and silver. You had digital dollars, okay? And you had someone that wanted to sell you. They wanted to give you a physical asset like this, and you give them the digital receipt or asset. You actually become a bank for this new digital ecosystem. Do you see that?
No, you have, no, back up. Say that
All
again.
right, so let's say that you have $3,500 and you buy 10 of these silver ounce coins, okay?
Okay,
So now you
Yep.
get a digital receipt, so you actually get $3,500 worth of digital silver that you can actually is yours. But if someone comes to you and says, I want to get one of those, I'll give you a silver coin and you send me 35 digital dollars that are digital silver. So you now have
Right.
34, they have 1. So now
Right.
you basically became the bank. You took a silver asset and gave them a digital receipt. And then
Correct.
and then anybody can transact. So just like you are the bank to them, now you could say, well, I want to buy a pair of shoes from Becca in Australia. And they're $70. So I'm going to send her over 70 digital, and you could convert it. So that there's 2 parts. One is basically buying it. 2 is actually converting it. So you could actually convert your digital US dollars or your silver and gold, which we'll talk about on another call. You could literally convert that receipt to another, or you could say, you know what? I want my coins. Send me my coins. And they can literally go and send you could cash out. So you're taking your digital asset and getting a physical asset for it. Does that make sense?
This is unbelievable, Michael. It makes sense. Oh my God. This is crazy. This is crazy. Okay, so when is it live?
So we actually
Jeez.
gave, I don't want to put pressure, but there's one developer that can get it all done, but we're trying not to touch that developer. That now, when I say that, get it all done, I'm talking about the transaction of silver and gold, blah, blah, blah. There's another developer that's coming up to speed. And the goal is you put good people around you and then you trust them. And you enable them to actually stand up and do it. And this developer is relatively new. And last night, they actually said, I give up. And I said, because I told them, you have until the 20th to do this, or this task will be pulled from you and you won't have it. I didn't say you're going to lose your job. I didn't say any of that stuff, but I said, there's a window and it's just, you have to be done by the 20th. And he sent a message yesterday or this morning and said, I can't do it. I can't figure it out. And I says, no, you can. Believe in yourself. You can do this. Because here's the key. The type of development we're doing, nobody knows. It's all uncharted territory. The logics behind it, the understanding, like even this audience here to come up with these concepts, it's like they're really simple concepts, but you have to actually see it and feel it. And to this individual's defense, they've never done this before, but we've got to bring on more people that can do more. And so on the flip side, we'll see what he comes back with. He's about ready to start working in the next hour or so. Hopefully he comes back with a positive attitude because we've all been, I don't know if everybody's been sick or feeling like garbage. I've been down for the last 10 days or so, but I'm feeling better. But in the end, I don't know what's going on around the world. I haven't been paying attention. I hear stuff that, this new virus is coming out and they're spraying it with drones, and whether you're getting vaccinated with the drone stuff or you're getting sick with the drone, I don't know. I don't know what to believe. And to be honest with you, I really don't care. But I do care that people have freedom of choice and their own knowledge. Go ahead, Victoria, it's all you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Welcome.
Concerning, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. So the transfer of digital receipts, for the example of using the silver coin, I understand how you transact that and you're becoming the bank, and you've basically listed all your assets in this decentralized system, right? So you have all of your assets being held, marked, and you have a digital receipt. So using the example from Danielle and Becca, she buys a service or item and transacted digitally for, we'll say, 1 silver coin. So that represents a digital transaction for the real world item. So let's say Becca then uses that, and that same digital asset is then transferred 5 times. And then the person who gets that digital receipt in the end has that code, wants to redeem for the actual physical item. How do they redeem that physical item?
They basically just submit a request, and the item has been serialized to the original transaction, which you can follow the chain of the 5 different people it's been through. The
Yes.
asset has been audited, it has been insured, and it has been vaulted. And then what they do is they actually request to turn in their digital receipt, and then they basically get their physical asset sent to them. And when they get it sent to them, their digital asset or receipt actually gets burned or destroyed. But it still has a history to it. So you can see how the silver was created and serialized, how the receipt went from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, when it was transferred, how it was transferred, all of it, and then how it was turned back in, how it was burned or destroyed for the actual serialized asset that was sent to them. Does that make sense?
It does. The real world connection I'm having a hard time making is, where is it physically going to be held?
And that's what I was telling you earlier. Here in Utah and Wyoming and Switzerland are vaults around where the actual assets are either pulled out of the earth, stored, shipped, minted. So a couple of these different businesses, you know, there's one that's a mint, right? So a mint that has a bullion dealer that can actually issue and sell things like coins that then have credit that are issued associated to them. Imagine a Switzerland bank or a Canadian bank or XYZ bank that actually ties with a charter to cards that are specifically issued for decentralized assets or for investments or accredited investors, kind of like what we just talked about. And then that ties over to finance, which then ties to the visas, which then ties into shopping. Really, everything is all about shopping. It's all about people selecting, what am I going to buy? Is it made local? And what am I going to actually pay for it with? Is it a local asset? For instance, we've been talking about the Hawaiian Kingdom. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're out of the Hawaiian Kingdom, right?
Correct. I am on the big island of Hawaii.
So you understand what I'm talking about when it comes to Dala, when it comes to restoration, when it comes to creating businesses, when it comes to a currency. Really, the whole Hawaiian Kingdom was taken over by this same concept that we're talking about. It's not a concept. It's commerce. The United States of America just said, you will use the United States dollar for commerce, period. And that's all they mandated. And because of that, they understand he who creates the money creates the rules. And that's why you give the actual creation of money back to the individual, the organization, the country or kingdom in a digital world that is governed and owned by no one. Does all that make sense to you?
On multiple levels, believe it or not.
Beautiful. For someone that's been to just 2 meetings, and for you to get it that fast, my hat or it goes off, like big time.
And I appreciate like everything you're doing. And I don't know how versed or on top of all of this that anybody else is in the meeting. I mean, I have digital assets, I have real world assets, and I'm involved in my community a lot. Being able to assign your own value, and I've also, you know, met individuals who've created their own crypto. And value is determined by the people who hold it. So, for example, Bitcoin went sky high because people valued it and they accepted it as currency. Any Tom, Dick, or Harry can create a digital asset. They do it all the time. They're NFTs and other things, but it's who is using it and how much they value it on how much it's worth in the real world. So being able to focus around like what's going to be the top traded or top valued items are where you would want to invest more. Is that correct?
Yep. That's exactly correct.
And for somebody like me who's getting into the decentralization, and I 100% agree about the decentralization and the government involvement, particularly in Hawaii, is particularly corrupt. Giving that power back to the people is how I try to participate in my community. So understanding how decentralization, not just in finance, but in our other government systems, can be beneficial and can be transparent, I think is amazing. And we do have a lot of, simmering down to do. They call it a swamp because, it's all mixed up right now. And I understand that you're going to have to go between, what is physical and what is digital. And there are going to be people who are resistant to that change, but making that change as simple as possible and going before people and showing them, hey, if I can do it, so can you. So I'm willing to I'll sign up. I don't know what all you would need me to do, but
You just go.
I'm ready to go.
You just go download Hawaiian Life, and there's two
Already
buttons.
done.
So you basically on your right side, you can log into the Hawaiian Kingdom, and you can start transacting like this. And then you've got your whole ecosystem, or you can, on the left side, you can actually have assets. And so there's not many humans on earth that would pick up the concepts that we just talked about as quickly as you do. So I would challenge you to actually start helping to restore the Hawaiian dollar. And there are so many amazing people right on the Big Island that are emphatic about this, like behind it. And I don't know if you're connected in with the Kanaka Maori or the Kunas or any of the folks that are actually involved in that movement. But if not, I could probably make some introductions and you could help to show them. Like they just need to see it and understand it. Yeah. And the next thing you know,
And they do.
Yeah.
And I think it goes beyond, local Hawaiians. I think it's generational and the way people think about things, and they don't question, how things are done. And I've worked for credit card companies before. I've known that Visa charges, 2 to 3% per transaction for many moons. And it's like, they're robbing you every time you swipe, and that comes from somewhere. So decentralization is where it needs to go. And I don't know the particular people that you do, so an introduction would probably be very beneficial, but I do have a few people who are in line and would have the knowledge and access to be able to help onboard people into a decentralized system.
Awesome.
And it takes trust. And there are people that I do trust, and
This is all about
to show them
Go ahead.
how to do it and get them on board. I mean, they're already, marketing and setting up new businesses like weekly, on top of their other jobs. So having that access and to show them, I think Hawaii would be a great place to get it rolling because it's very isolated, and Hawaii tends to be a test place for things like that. You know, if it works in Hawaii, it's going to work everywhere else.
Yeah, Hawaii and Australia and New Zealand are very good ecosystems that are kind of independent and closed off. New Zealand and Australia, I would argue, are better than Hawaii because Hawaii has some very interesting history and unique circumstances that create a level of complexity that many just want to ignore. Like,
I agree.
It was illegally annexed and stolen, period. You know, and
Yeah.
does that mean it's right or it's wrong? Those are all different conversations, but I know that, you know, the Kingdom of Hawaii was turned into the Republic of Hawaii, was turned into the state of Hawaii, not with the consent of the majority of the people, period. There was no treaty, you know, the annexation was not anything close to like what, for instance, to take the state of Texas from the nation of Texas in the same 1830s that occurred, both with Texas and Hawaii, with two different animals. They were just, but when you look at it, it's kind of like what Trump's going to do with Greenland. It's like they're thinking about it from think about the game Risk. It's like, okay, let's go all the way into Canada, all the way up to Australia. You hold the border there. You go all the way through Mexico, all the way to Panama, and you hold the border there, including the Panama Canal. Now you talk about all of that, then going east and west with Iceland or Greenland, and then you've got Hawaiian Islands. You've got protection, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to talk war. I don't want to talk negativity, but I believe that that's where a lot of these systems are going. But if you have a framework that basically enables the American environment like this, so you've got America that can do identity and health and voting and finance, and this is not a game. This is like a real system. And then you've got Mexico that can do it as well. So you take those systems there, and then you layer that upon the Americas, like Canada. So let's say that Canada's next. This can easily become a reality of one environment that's basically sharing with one another. So different conversation, but I would just commend you as an individual to say you are here for a massive reason. Your history with credit cards, I'm telling you, you're in the second meeting and you get it. This is not common. So please stay engaged. Help us. Help drive the awareness and understanding. I mean, those that have been here for a long time, you're starting to see it and understand it. But for her to explain it, that's phenomenal. I mean, anyways, I'll stop blabbing. Thank you for being here, Victoria. Next question or comment or feedback? Now is your time. If not, we'll wrap up and say sayonara for a week.
Okay, one more. So somebody that has an existing business, can they come and create it in the digital world? And what would be the benefit? What would be the advantage of doing so? Especially that it's not really up and running?
So my simple answer would be yes. You can create something that is digital in parallel to something that is physical. And that's actually the whole purpose for the Clear companies. The Clear companies are doing what's normally done in the physical world: insurance, mortgage, banking, bicycles, to cars, to homes, to energies, to fuels, which are way down the road. But today, the way we access it is all through cell phones. And the decentralized architecture before the cell phones was the storage. So we literally spent tons of time in the storage and the server operating system and in the phones and then this phone operating system and in linking that together so that the rest of the world had a foundation that they could actually build a parallel digital decentralized life on. And so the question then becomes, well, do they need, if they've already got, let's say a business domiciled in Toronto, because I've actually been to Toronto, I've been into the system and saw what kind of brain damage. Like, we actually incorporated the Clear Foundation out of Toronto, believe it or not. And you know what? The Canadian government came back and said, you have the word foundation inside of your business. We don't see you as a nonprofit. You haven't registered as a nonprofit. Therefore, we're not going to give you it. And he says, you know what? Fine. Don't worry about it. That's when we actually went to New Zealand. We actually full on left. And so think about it. If you could incorporate a business that's not taxed on income tax, capital gains tax, use tax, sales tax. You don't have to renew it every year. You can actually get a federal employer identification number and an alien environment. So for instance, what's to stop XYZ Bank in ABC state from issuing a registered agent of that business that's digital? So it's the opposite of your question. So right now you're saying you got a business that's physical. Can you create a digital business? The answer is yes. But then which one actually is primary, secondary? The question comes, and I believe the right way long-term to create them is you create them digitally, and then you have registered agents to operate in a local jurisdiction, maybe a state, and then a bank within the state. And you get a federal employer identification number and link it to that digital entity that then links to taxation in the physical and jurisdictions. That's all you need to start a bank account. And to start a bank account is the core of starting a business. But really, you don't want to build the banking system on the old stuff. You want to build it on the future stuff. That makes sense?
I want to be decentralized. Or the point of this would be to decentralize the person's business.
Yeah, you got it. That's why this guy, an old friend that came by and says, Mike, I got this important thing that I'm doing with these trees, and I know that I'm supposed to turn these into digital assets, each tree, and then I'm going to actually sell the tree up front, and then everyone gets the benefit and value as they grow, but they all get the risk too. So, and then he's actually, get this, he's actually linking each tree and asset to a GPS coordinates.
Oh my God, talk about another level of security.
It's so cool. And that's what, when we take this whole concept and we layer it over one map for the whole world, it's going to be beautiful. Think about one Wikipedia system, but for mapping. And anytime anything changes, it's a cryptographic entry because that's really what cryptography or decentralization, it's all about. It's basically multiple devices having unison saying this actually happened. And you can't, it's immutable. It's really just validating that it happened. That's all this is. All cryptography is an application on servers that is a timestamp. That's it. So, but the real kicker, how do we as humans organize ourselves? And that's why that simple comment that Victoria talked about, it's not just a comment. It's how do we actually turn this into communication to other people to say, you can be your own bank. You don't have to work off of that currency that's just created out of thin air and some Tom, Dick, or Harry is just shipping it to that jurisdiction and this jurisdiction. If we go back to a simple standard, silver and gold is a value of spot worldwide, converts in and out worldwide. And oh, by the way, if you do it under a certain quantity amount, money transmitter laws don't apply, period. It's and then taxation doesn't apply either. So, and I'm not saying being tax avoidance or being tax evade, blah, blah. That's not what I'm driving at. People will try and point it that way. But ultimately, we have to figure out how to get out of the existing enslavement system that's centralized into a decentralized, unenslaved system. And that's what this is all about. So I really appreciate everyone being here for the involvement. This has been a great way to kick off the year. Last comment, anybody? Feedback, thoughts?
I have just some comments, Michael. The fact that we just spoke about the small part of what this ecosystem can do is quite phenomenal, because what I see is large business development for third world countries that need our help, right? So if we can't look away anymore as people. This is what I feel anyway. We can't look away.
You know what I see is amazing, and this gentleman's not on this call, but you'll see Michael D on the calls, and I won't be specific with names. He is right now meeting with country heads and banks and service providers to literally roll this out in the whole country and kingdom of Ethiopia. And if they can do it, there's nothing wrong with first world. I mean, all these other countries to be able to do it. So, you know, the Canadian stuff is up next, in my opinion, Danielle and whoever else wants to get involved in that, because the unification of systems doesn't hurt anyone. So I'm going to stop blabbing and just say thank you for joining us tonight. There's a beautiful song that we played last time. Actually, I'm going to play Together We Rise. So here we go. Bye, everybody.
Rise up from the ashes, rise up from the flames, see through the lies that feed the fires that we create. Come out from the shadows, come out in plain sight. Nothing to lose, it's time to move into the light. Together, united, denying, we're fighting, no more hiding anymore. Our story, we write it or lose it, we can't keep quiet anymore. 'Cause together we will rise, oh, together we will rise, oh, together we will rise. Can't wait any longer, it's our time, yeah, it's our time. Together we will rise, together we will rise, together we will rise. Can't wait any longer, it's our time, yeah, it's our time. Oh. Now we're fighting for the lives of our sons and daughters. It's a war we're gonna lose if we divide ourselves apart. Yeah, it's time to rip the veil that covers everything. The talking heads that wanna make us blind. And when we strike back, shoot love into the sky. Together, united, denying, we're fighting, no more hiding anymore. Our story, we write it or lose it, we can't keep quiet anymore. 'Cause together we will rise, oh, together we will rise, oh, together we will rise. Can't wait any longer, it's our time, yeah, it's our time. Together we will rise, oh, together we will rise, oh, together we will rise. Can't wait any longer, it's our time, yeah, it's our time. Together we will rise. Together we will rise. Together we will rise. Any longer. It's our time, yeah. It's our time. Together we will rise. Together we will rise. Together we will rise. Can't wait any longer. It's our time, yeah. 'Cause it's our time.
Bye, everybody. Much love. See you next week or at sea.